The Loop Line. Written by Maithwaiter and adapted for audio by Butterfly Coffee. It was late in the evening and Percy was grumpy. He was waiting at the docks with his post train and he was late. Henry had not arrived to collect the kipper, and Percy couldn't leave until the bigger engine had cleared the section. He sizzled impatiently. Silly old Henry! How hard can it be to collect a few trucks? I could do that myself! The sound of heavy puffing filled the air as Henry finally arrived next to Percy. The smaller engine glared at the larger. Well, he snipped, what's your excuse this time? Did you stop to do some bird watching? Henry was annoyed. It wasn't my fault, he objected. I was held up by red signals at the junction. Percy didn't believe him. Excuses, excuses! You can't take responsibility for anything! Now I have to make up for the time you wasted! Percy let off steam and hurried away into the darkness, leaving Henry feeling offended. A thick fog descended, and a light rain drizzled as Percy trundled along with the post train, his lamp shining through the dark. He was very cross. The nerve of Henry! Percy fumed to himself. That engine needs to learn to keep to time! Doesn't he know that my post train is a high priority? Percy soon came to a red signal. As he waited, the little engine spotted a track winding away from the main line. Percy had a good idea what it was. He'd heard of a loop line along this stretch of track that made its way through the forest. He considered. If I use the loop line as a shortcut, I could reach the next station in no time, making up for the delay Henry caused. So, Percy whistled to the signal box. It was completely dark inside, but he could just make out a man's shadow. Nothing happened. Percy tried again. At last, there came a loud scraping noise. The points creaked as they changed. The signal clanked as it dropped. Clever me! Clever me! Chuckled Percy as he hurried along. Suddenly, he hit a bump in the track. He braked to a halt. Percy had never travelled on this loop line before. The thick tree branches towered over him and blocked out any moon or starlight. The thickness of the fog made Percy feel cramped. I don't remember the loop line looking so unnerving at night. Percy knew he had to make up for the delay, so he decided to carry on. He puffed deeper and deeper into the forest, becoming more unsettled. After the silence became a little much, he stopped. There's no way this loop line is so long, he mumbled to himself. Maybe I've gone down the wrong track. Oh, I'm really going to be late now. It was then Percy noticed. The forest seemed to have changed. The trees looked closer, the branches beginning to reach towards him like curious, gnarled hands. He shuddered. Hello there. Percy jumped! Peering through the fog, he found himself next to a set of sidings. Loop lines didn't have sidings, did they? He could barely make them out. A lone truck sat there, tangled in brambles. You woke me up, it said. Oh, did I? I'm terribly sorry. You see, I'm just a little... I haven't been woken up in a long time. Here I was, sound asleep as I still should be. But yet, you woke me. What is your name? Percy felt uneasy. I'm Percy. I am sorry I woke you. I'm just a bit lost is all, and I'm running late. Lost? Queried the truck. You aren't lost, Percy. Far from it. My name is Spider. Percy was surprised. That's an odd name for a truck. I didn't know trucks had names. There was another intense silence. Spider stared intently at Percy. The rusted truck had dark, soulless-looking eyes. Percy swore he could feel his paintwork crawl. Well, it was nice to meet you, Spider, but I must be going. The truck raised a mouldy old brow. Going? Yes, I have to find my way back out to the main line and get this post delivered. With a shaky little whistle, Percy reversed back into the fog. All the while, he could feel Spider's gaze piercing into him. He shuddered again. Oh, that was the strangest truck I've ever seen. I don't want to have to see him again. Percy made his way back through the forest. The air around him was heavy and dark, his lamp barely doing anything to help. Another moment passed before Percy brought the train to a halt again. The fog was so thick it seemed suffocating. The little engine knew he was now completely lost. Where am I? Am I going in circles? Percy did his best not to panic. He tried to think of a way he could help himself find his way out of this scary forest and choking fog. He looked back to his mail vans. I'll leave a trail, he decided. That way, I'll know where I've been. The guard uncoupled the brake van, and Percy puffed away with the other vans in tow. As he went on his way, he tried not to think about how the branches seemed to try and grab him. On and on and on Percy went. He puffed past the place he had left his brake van. It was nowhere in sight. Now Percy did start to panic. Oh, for goodness sake! Where am I? Hello again, Percy. Percy couldn't stop the scream that came from him. At last, he made out those old, soulless-looking eyes. Spider? I thought you were miles behind me. Percy stopped. Peering hard, he noticed a pile of splintered wood on the track by the old truck's wheels. Nobody else, Percy, said the truck. I thought you would have known that by now. Percy wasn't listening. He squinted harder at the pile of debris. Among the wood sat a broken red tail lamp. Percy was shocked. My brake van! But how did it get here? You woke me, Percy. Not this wooden box with its deceptive eyes and hollow walls. Now then, Are you staying? I already told you, Spider. I can't. I've got work to do. So have I. There was another long silence. Once again, Spider's bottomless eyes stared straight ahead, boring right into Percy. With a whimper and a shake, Percy shot backwards as fast as he could. Please let there be an exit! I want to go home! He raced along through the forest, faster and faster. The fog burnt his eyes and stung his nose. The air smelled damp and electric. Percy felt the vans rattle and bash about behind him. Without warning, there was a jolt and a crunch. The rear two vans had derailed, and Percy was ploughing them through the ballast. He started hyperventilating. No, I can't! I can't! He blinked and was back at Spider's siding. The rotten old wagon had a blank expression. Torn up letters and twisted metal were scattered everywhere. Are you finished? Are you finally staying? Percy was so frightened he nearly cried. Why are you doing this? Who are you? What do you want? There was a long, low chuckle. You brought this on yourself. Darkness fell. Percy's lamp had gone out. His frantic breathing was quick and laboured. A sharp jerk pulled at him. Percy screamed. He was being dragged towards something. His wheels spun, but he couldn't pull away. At last, he saw something, a horrible sight that made him sick. Spider had no eyes, and his mouth was wide open. Welcome to my web. Percy's cry jolted Thomas and Toby awake. Percy stared blankly ahead, panting feverishly with tears stinging his eyes. Cinders and ashes, Percy! Exclaimed Thomas. What's wrong? Percy tried to answer, but no real words came to him. He could only make jittery, frightful noises. Toby tried to calm him. You've had a nightmare, Percy. You're all right. Take deep breaths. Percy did his best, but his breathing was ragged and came in fits and starts. He huffed and heaved, and at last began to say words. I was taking the post. You did that hours ago, Percy. Toby's voice remained steady. You fell asleep as soon as you got into the sheds. Percy now had enough sense to look around him. He saw the moon, the shed doors, and Thomas and Toby stood on either side of him. He shivered. There's no spider? Of course not, said Thomas. Who'd ever sleep in a shed that was full of spiders? You're quite safe, Percy, assured Toby. There's nothing to fear. Try and get some sleep. We've all got plenty to do tomorrow. Eventually, the three engines fell asleep. The sheds once again settled into stillness. From the yards, an old, rotten truck sat quietly amongst the rolling stock, its soulless glare fixed intently on the shed. Sleep now, Percy. Next time, I'll wake you.